We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. This is Cheryl from Dja country. Welcome everyone to Beyond 90, the podcast, episode 103. My name is Cheryl Downs. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm delighted to have all of my co-hosts, a whole bunch of them today because football is so exciting and there's a lot of news to talk about and tell. So let's go around quickly and welcome everyone. Let's start with Neil. Great to have you back, Neil. It's been a couple of pods since we last had you on.
Yeah, sorry, it's been taken up with a lot of stuff going on here, but no, it's always lovely to be here. We're battling our way through a flu epidemic here in WA at the moment, but thankfully we don't have the rain that New South Wales has got. It's a glorious winter, so we're able to get all the games underway. Bit of a hectic week this week. We've had cup games and a full league program, but it's been great. And yeah, always a delight to be on. So thanks for having me here.
Terrific. Madge, how about your week? And any special thoughts about your T-shirt tonight? I'm not sure.
Oh yes, I've got my new Matilda's Active Choose Your Player celebration shirt on. So I'm taking that out for a spin. But
how's the fit of the T-shirts and everything? Give a shout out for the fit and quality of the kit.
Oh look, really good quality AS color T-shirts. So yes, all very nice. That's probably the most exciting thing that's happened so far this week up here in Queensland. So, but otherwise, yeah, things have been going really well here.
And Dale, I don't want to take the words out of your mouth, but wondering if you can get yellow shorts to match that T-shirt as well.
I hope not. We're never a big fan of yellow shorts. Yellow shorts should be banned.
Yes. That's for every country, not just Australia.
Yeah. I think
country.
Yeah, I think that should be. I think that's right.
Fair enough, but hopefully all is well in your world, Dale.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, it's as Neil was saying, we've had a lot of rain in Sydney. Had a lot of, not just rain. We've had some pretty hectic wind out where I am. There's currently a ship just like adrift off the coast just south of Sydney. So hopefully that's all good. But yeah, it's been a weird old week here.
Okay. Thank you for that. Final people of the group, we've got Steffen there as well. Hopefully your week has been good. Not quite on the coast, but definitely cold in Canberra, I would assume.
Yeah, it's we're on the edge of the weather, so we've just had a bit of wind here, but managed to get out to all our games on the weekend. So that was really great. Thank you. Hope you're all well.
Very good. And finishing up with Eric as well. Hopefully you have not been up any scaffolding in any of this pants weather.
See, I can barely remember what I did this morning, but no, I mean, I had interesting commentary experiences where you're undercover and you're still getting wet because of the direction of the wind, but I am otherwise fine.
Great to have everyone on board. 380 days until the World Cup. We've updated the website, so we've got a little widget. We're going to have a bit of a widget going on in the pod posts as well, so people can keep track of how far away it is. It's not that far. It's getting super exciting. We've got a couple of nations yet to qualify as well, and it's a big week in football to talk about those kind of things as well. But before we run into those things, a couple of key shout outs. One of them, Trudy Diamond, Matilda's cap number 103. Congratulations to her for her one and only Matilda's cap. She debuted in 1997. Her grassroots club was Beresfield, and she played as a defender. She played one game, came off the bench against New Zealand in a Tri-Nation series. Look, to be honest, I wouldn't care if I had one cap. I'd still be pretty darn impressed with it. So congratulations to you, Trudy, it being part of the Matilda's history. The other thing I wanted to give a shout back to ourselves, to all of the crew on here and to everyone who's ever been on one of the Beyond 90 podcasts. I had some time on my hands and I was dabbling away. I believe, and I'm happy to be counted on this, but I believe we are Australia's longest running women's football podcast. We established ourselves in April 2019. And back in episode 1 with Molly and groups, Steffen, you had a listen. Were there any key shout outs that you wanted to mention on that one?
Oh, look, I love listening back to it. I think it's about the third time I've heard it, but I was a fan back in those days. I think I was only just coming on board, and it was interesting. The talk was all around the Aussies in the NWSL at that time, and some speculation around squads for the 2019 World Cup. So, it's worth going back for a listen, I reckon, and just good to experience some of our history too. So.
Our optimism leading up to the World Cup or some such thing, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's always good. I think it's been a long-running group effort from a whole bunch of people who have appeared either as co-hosts or definitely as guests as well. And I think we add something different to the landscape. It's absolutely brilliant to have more and more people contributing to the landscape as well, doing more pods. And I think everything's unique and there's room for all of it. Let's talk about news of the week. And I think it's been a massive week in football. I think it always is. To start off the week, we're having NAIDOC week, which is around the Australians or the First Nations players who have appeared for any level of football, I suppose. So, I mean, NAIDOC week is bigger than that, but from the context of the Matildas tweeting about it, we've got Kaya Simon, Lydia Williams, Gemma Simon, and 3 others, which I can't see in my conversation tweet, if anyone wants to call them out.
Bridget Starr, Kayleen Jansen, and Karen Menzies, who was rocking a fantastic 80s haircut in the photo that they've chosen to use, which we love to see.
Fantastic. So, I mean, great to see more representation. I'd love to see more and more. I think the John Moriarty Foundation has quite a bit to do with getting First Nation people involved in football, and long shall it continue and get better and better, because the people who have represented Australia from First Nations make such a big impact, not only to the team that they play in, but to all of the individuals who watch them play and see themselves represented there. Football records have been more records. These are not global records in terms of scale, but last week there was a match between Denmark and Brazil, which I think was the biggest match maybe for Denmark, over 21,000 fans, and then Sweden against Brazil in the same week, I think, with over 33,000 fans. So I think that's exceptional and very exciting for Sweden. They just look to be re-establishing themselves as a top nation. Okay, Matilda's news. I don't want to talk through all of it. Let's start with a quick wrap-up, or not quick. Let's start with a wrap-up of Matilda's versus Portugal, which seems so long ago, and it was, where we had a 1-1 draw. Who wants to kick us off with some thoughts on that?
First of all, I was impressed is probably the wrong word, but we'll use impressed. I was impressed with Portugal. They were a lot harder to beat than I thought they would be. I know that they had beaten us in the past, and obviously they're playing on their home patch, so you kind of take that into consideration. But I really think that it's not that we underestimated them or we played a weak side. I think Portugal kind of rose to the occasion, which was really good to see. The goal that they scored, we'll probably talk about that later, but the officiating was, 3 blind mice. Let's be quite frank about that. But really good to see Princess Abini score her first international goal. Kind of crazy to think that she debuted 5 years ago for the Matildas now. And also crazy to think that she's still only 22. But I think that there were a lot of positives that came out of this in terms of the style of football that we played, but also that we kind of didn't drop our heads after being beaten so heavily by Spain last week.
I'm hoping people just jump in, but throw you in the deep end as well, Madge. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been a lot of chat about, I think, some of the skill level and the passing, which I think was a fair criticism of the Matildas. Portugal absolutely came out strong with the press, which I think we just didn't react very well to. And I think we had a bit of a chat on the Twitter Spaces that, having a few more players who are more comfortable on the ball. You sort of had Katrina Gorry and maybe Claire Wheeler trying to pass between themselves, but then it seems like presses do tend to worry us quite easily. But thankfully, Portugal weren't able to keep that up for the entire game, and we were able to, claw some dominance back in the sort of second half of the first half and into the second half. Absolutely loved the goal. Thought that was really beautiful. counter-attacking passing there, just one-touch stuff, which is probably what was lacking early on. So we just weren't making those really nice, crisp passes that we're finding our players. But then when we did, and when it did click, it resulted in a beautiful goal. And I will just say, there's a reason why the Mads banner for Emily Gilnick is a Gilnick crossing banner, like a road sign, because on the wing crossing is where I love seeing Gilnick play. I don't particularly love seeing her as a striker. So I think her playing out on the wing and I think it may have been Teo in commentary mentioned when Charlie Grant went back out to fullback, started linking up with Gilnick as well. I think that was really was when we started to improve on the ball and make a few more attacking runs.
Shout out for anyone in particular from you, Steffen?
It was a while ago, wasn't it? My recollection of the game is that
You're struggling because no one's from Canberra. Sorry.
Yeah, that too. We did not start well, did we? But by the second half, we'd grown into the game and adjusted. And as Matt said, we started to get tidier with our work and work things out. And I agree on the Gilnick comment as well, Emily Gilnick. She did play as a bit of a striker for Vizio at one stage and did so reasonably well. But I think I agree with you, Madge, about where she naturally tends to gravitate towards is those wide areas and does it well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that because she's tall, she'd be a great target for heading the ball. She's not a header. She does not head the ball that often. I think I remember one for the Raw, like the couple of seasons ago, where she kind of got on a looping one and sort of looped it in, but it's not her natural. I don't think it's a natural thing, unless she's coming on as a super sub to just barrel through people because people are tired. Yes, I absolutely prefer to see her on the wing.
Gilnick and Van Egmond are both north of 5'10", and neither of them are any good with their headers.
Yes.
Gilnick's played up front a lot for Villa, or played a lot up front.
I disagree with that as well. Centrally, no.
And they're just not. She's the thing with her. Even when she plays in front, I found is that she tends to move to the corner flag. She's not the kind of target player that you want, which is kind of why I found it funny that we played Seamson in a less advanced position, considering that the bulk of her quality. I mean, it's kind of hard to say because she was playing for Manly, but like the bulk of her quality for Sydney in the last few seasons has been either getting in behind or kind of poaching. Whereas if she's playing out on a wider position, like she's not great crossing and she's not kind of the player that kind of cuts back on her right foot from the left flank like Princess Abini does and does really well. But then, as you said, I mean, I don't think that Gilnick's, the fact that she's 6'1" or however tall she's, like, she was equal tallest player at the last World Cup, and the other tallest player is a centre half. So like, I can't really see putting her up front. I do like the concept of putting her, Polks and Kennedy up front for, like, if we're down though, that it kind of makes sense. You can at least have players scrap off those second balls.
Eric, any extra thoughts from yourself, and then we'll go to Neil?
I mean, I'm just saying that it's good for Princess Abini after a rather long time between caps that she was, able to get on the score sheet and convert, as we've already covered at great length, that excellent Emily Gilnick wing play. So, it's good. And it's good to see, I think I said this on the last pod, that he is actually looking at players who are spending this part of the year playing in Australia and not sticking 100% to any previous statements that Tony has made.
And Neil, finishing up with yourself, your thoughts?
I think Lydia Williams getting 100th cap is definitely worth a mention. Coming in and doing the business. I agree. The refereeing was terrible. I mean, let's face it, we could have had a player sent off, but mistaken identity, and then the offside
cancelled out
goal.
The offside goal.
Yes, and then the offside goal as well.
If she was any further forward, she would have been in the net.
Yes. But I think one of the things it does show, and not perhaps as evident as it was in the Spanish game, but these players for Portugal, they're right in the middle of their final tune-ups for the Euros. They've just finished their season and they're up against players who, if they're playing in the domestic competition, are playing at NPL level. And it's just not a fair competition, really. What they do is amazing to get to that standard. and compete against them. But really, the difference in quality and class, because they've come off the NPLW season, April, and they haven't had this really intense competition since then. Whereas these players they're up against in these national teams are all playing in European leagues and have only just finished their season. So I think a lot has been said about the 7-0, and I think it shows us where we're at. And I think that the announcement of the extension of the league can only be a good thing, because it does mean that the players are in a much more professional environment for a much longer period of time, and hopefully they can improve their skills. But good to see the 1-1, and as we've all mentioned, a very good goal as well.
Thanks, Neil.
Just want to jump in just on that goal. It means that Princess Abini now has more goals for Australia than her brother.
Hey!
That we love to see.
Yes.
I don't know if I would take that down as our pod title. More goals than her brother.
If you change that to better than a brother, it's probably one, catchy, and
Fine
two,
with that.
and two,
Fine.
in line with like 30% of my social media brand. So
Yeah. We have no
Big shout
problem
out to
with that
Taryn
half
King.
of the Abini football family.
Yes.
No, definitely not.
Thank you. And it's a really good point that Neil was talking about, just about, and maybe Dale as well, about the number of minutes and exposure to those elite level games and the impact of the A-League women changes, which have been announced this week. But before we get there, we'll just go through a little bit more of the news. Ellie Carpenter has extended her contract with Lyon until 2026, which, to think about Ellie Carpenter a couple of years ago, watching her play in Jordan, and her athleticism was without doubt, but her readiness to play at that level was something that was challenged by people, including myself. And now that you see, she's just in the top sort of club team in the world, bar Barcelona potentially. Mm-hmm. So it's a brilliant space for her to be. It also highlights that they are committed to her recovery as well, which I think is very important too. Speaking of big signings, Mary Fowler, 4-year signing with Manchester City. If you don't already have a Man City kit, anyone rushing out to buy one?
Oh God, no! I've already sold my soul to the City Football Group enough with the 2 jerseys I have. So no.
I'm just happy that it's much more accessible for us to watch those games now as well. Yeah. So that's great news. Being able to see 3 Aussies playing for City. So you get some good Aussie bang for your buck.
And she's really, I don't mean to be ageist, but she's really young as well. So to sign a 4-year deal with a big club like that really shows their intent, really shows her intent. And we've seen her spend 2 seasons, I think it was, with Montpellier, just coming off the bench and being a really good addition to the team. And it's like Tony G would say, it's not about a starting 11, it's about a whole team, and coming off the bench and delivering value is massive. So huge news for her, less huge news for Taylor Ray, who unfortunately suffered her 3rd ACL injury. So all of our thoughts are with her. And I know that Ante Juric, I think it was, made some comments either on social media or in a post or it was in Don Bossi's article, I think, potentially. And that's all we'll say about Don Bossi's article. But yeah, I'm sure the Matilda's support team have they put together the most professional environment they can for the players. So thoughts with Taylor Ray. Finally, just in news, I suppose, and Eric, I might give this to you, even though I know you're only going to talk about one player, but the 28-player squad has been announced for the 2022 AFF Women's Championships, which for Australia starts tonight. Mm-hmm. Take it away.
Yes. So without having heard, firstly, what Cheryl referring to, of course, is the 2022 AFF Women's Championship, where Australia have brought a mostly under-23 squad, with the exception of Larissa Crummer, I think is the only player over 23. Of course, by the time you're hearing this, Australia will have played their opening game against the Philippines. But even so, I haven't heard anything official, but I just recommend you subscribe to the MyFootball YouTube page. Just sounds like it'd be a good idea. Anyway, basic admin, we're down to 27 maybe, because Kirsty Fenton is on the list, but she also played for Northwest Sydney Spirit on the weekend. So that's weekend. So down to 27 at least. But That's the one player Cheryl alluded to is Abby Lemon. And despite my heritage with both of my players being from the Philippines, I passed a message on to Abby via her mother, Kelly. You have my permission to kick every single player from the Philippines if you so desire. So that's really what I want to see from Abby. But seriously, this be really interesting. It's hard to get my head around potential combinations with a 27-player squad, and this ages ranging from I think 16 to 26. So basically, whoever your favorite player in this squad is, you're bound to see them at some point because of good old AFC/AFF scheduling with one rest day between games. So Australia's playing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, and then next Tuesday to that in the group stage. So I suppose that's why we brought such a large squad.
And it's a little bit disappointing that you would arguably the two harder games are like our first two up.
Yeah, that's annoying.
It would have been like, so we've got Philippines first up and then Thailand, then Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia. So it maybe would have been nice to sort of flip that.
Yes.
So, see some combinations build into this the later half of the tournament. But you've got to deal with that.
I have to talk to my copy paste skill set as well, because I thought I copied and pasted a version which had some colors to say who were omissions as well from the larger squad.
That's a WordPress thing. I've noticed it doesn't always paste
the same thing when I try
everything.
And put tables in for match reports.
That's right.
So there's definitely some players in the list, at least in our show notes. We'll clean it up beforehand. Jacinta Galabata-Rachichi, I think, as an example, was listed in one of the original bigger, larger squads, but I don't think she's in the final 27. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to talk to some of those things. Mackenzie Hawkesby, was she one of the same? I'm not sure.
In the list as well.
Rachel Lowe. So there's a couple of players.
23.
Yeah, a couple of players not in there, even though our show notes say that they will be, but we'll update those. But all of the very best to the team who kick off their match at, I think, 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time tonight, which we believe that you can watch on a space which Eric talked about before, but yet to be announced. We'll just have to wait and see. Yeah. I feel like the next segment is more about Steffen and, keeping Steffen happy, in part because there's more players who have signed for Canberra United. But before we get there, the other big news which came out early it's been a couple of days since the news came out, but season 15 dates have been announced, which I think is so exciting. I remember sitting there, season's gone past and it's, a month away and you don't know that it's coming. It seems to be more proactive. There's lots more news coming out without sort of waiting for it. 11 teams, 20 rounds, 18 games per team or per club, 16 on the weekend, 2 midweek, which is interesting how they'll schedule that given that we're not entirely fully professional. Starts November 18th, which is good to know. Hopefully there'll be a match in Victoria to kick things off. And then the grand final, just to see the duration of the season, April 29-30. And I think we're also going to be observing the FIFA international windows as well, which is a good change for things because, it'll mean that more people can get to play more games. There is quite a bit of an overlap with NPL as well, and I'm not sure if people notice that, which will impact some of the teams which feel like they're doing really quite well. And I'm looking at some of the Sydney folks because some of those teams have a lot of players who would end up playing in the dub.
Firstly, shout out to friend of Beyond 90, Nick Amies, who is with Northern Tigers, one such team that has many dub players. He told us, at least we know now, so we can plan, but there's going to have to be, I think, a lot of meetings to decide how they handle this overlap and what rules they set, because it's been incredibly difficult this season with all the postponed games. But at the same time, it's not like you could put a cap on number of A-League women players that an NPL team signs, because that's restraint of trade, or it just doesn't feel right. You're intentionally weakening the comp.
Didn't they have something similar to that in the NPL men's competition, where they had a point system? Where
there is a player point system. So for women's, I think it's dug deep in the competition regs.
My thought would be that they'll probably just say that you can have an expanded squad. But then you're going to, the danger is that you then end up with girls who are probably going to be playing in like 14s and 16s playing in first grade early in the season, and then, as you say, it kind of weakens the competition as a whole. But at least we've got nearly 12 months to talk about it before we get to that point. It's mad to think that, like, I remember, and the point that you were making earlier, Cheryl, like, not just about the game, like kind of the dub draw being out like 2 weeks before the season starts, but like this season's going to go for like 5 months.
They're not used to that.
Yeah, like I remember when I first started following the W League, it was like, the games started in like December and then the grand final was in February.
We might have more than one momentum change throughout a season.
Yeah, or I remember when we had 2 grand finals in 1 year, which I think was 2009.
Yes.
But
it's happened again in 2014 as well.
Good. So good. Yeah, 2014. Oh, that's right, because we had the Asian Cup, of course. But yeah, so good. I don't think that there's, I mean, aside from obviously NPL, but this isn't an NPL show. But like, I don't think there's any real negatives to come out of this. More teams, we'll get onto that in a second. More players, more minutes. Midweek obviously is a bit of an issue, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Take us through the more teams, Dale.
So Western United coming in next year. They've announced Mark Torcaso as their head coach, I believe. And then Central Coast rejoining the competition in 2023-24. It will be interesting to see what happens with Central Coast if those of us of a certain W League vintage remember that Central Coast Mariners actually only played, I think, 4 of their home games on the Central Coast. Most of their games were played at either Parramatta or Campbelltown or Blacktown, maybe. So that'll be interesting, and they've got a bit of history up there. Obviously, a few really good players: Teresa Plias, Caitlin Cooper, Kendall Fletcher started up there. Her sojourns in Australia, so be interested to see that. But also, we'll be interested to see whether they play at Central Coast Stadium or they play at the men's NPL ground at Plume Park.
A very lovely ground, by the way.
Yeah, just for not aesthetics, but just for kind of just for admin's sake.
I wanted to also particularly call out Elise Perry, because it has been so long since anyone has mentioned Elise Perry in the context of football. And I imagine people who know very little and always used to say, why isn't Elise Perry in the Matilda squad?
Because she's a great cricketer.
Really she's very good at cricket. She gets paid a lot more to play cricket than she does to play football.
Yes.
So it'll be exciting anyway. I mean, I was not a fan of expansion of clubs before we had full home and away, but it shows that I sometimes need to keep my mouth shut, because there is a strategy behind this, and it is around having a sustainable league. So more clubs, more games. These are great things. The impact to the NPLW, that's, I'm sure there's a strategy around that, and it's about growing the league in terms of giving players more exposure to that level, even if the level doesn't necessarily stay where it was. We still had a great season last year, and we talked about lots of Matildas leaving and whatnot as well. So
I'd just like to jump in as well. And I think I was really heartened by, I think, a bit of a change in tune from Danny Townsend as well, about, from a fan perspective, about recognising that women's football fans may not be a cookie cutter of A-League men's fans.
Really?
So I think,
thank you.
It's been really heartening to sort of see that the APL has maybe heard that feedback after last season, that there's things that are unique and wonderful about the women's game in particular that we don't want to lose. And so I look forward to seeing what the APL can do to foster fans of women's football, along with the A-League men's season. So really nice to hear some change in perspective there.
I don't know about Neil's perspective as well, because we're talking about adding 2 more teams on the East Coast, and we've got in the West Coast, we've got Alexa Parkes, who is a coach from the East Coast. We've got a number of players who have come from the East Coast. So does that impact Perth more directly than anyone else, or do you think that the local talent is where it needs to be to make one really strong Perth Glory?
Some really good points there. I think this season it's not going to make a difference because the squad is pretty much dialed in from last season. But the addition of Central Coast Mariners, and depending on how Western United go, that could well be an attraction for those players who are currently in the eastern states and are coming over to WA. And when they come over to WA this time, they will be staying in WA. They're not. It's not like last season where, because of all of the COVID stuff, they've relocated and we're essentially an eastern states team. This time round, it's going to be based in Perth. They're going to be travelling to and from Perth, and that is a massive, massive disadvantage for any West Coast team, irrespective of codes or sport. So players having a season of that, they may think twice. In terms of the local talent, there isn't enough to fill a competitive W League team at the moment. You only have to look at the AFF squad. There's one player from WA in there, and that's Hannah Lowry. There are no players from WA in the junior Matildas. So we're not producing them. And then the players that we do produce seem to get to a pinnacle at about 17, 18, and then just stop developing. So the development of the NPL in Western Australia is absolutely critical to the success going forward for Perth Glory. This may help, I think, because it may force Perth Glory to actually look at local players. They've done it in the past and haven't had a great deal of success because it's been one-offs. It's been one season, then we'll change it, and then we'll change it, and then we'll change it. At least with Alex coming in this year, he signed players on 2-year contracts to try and get their continuity. Whether those Eastern State players stay for a third year or what, I don't know. But if you flip it, there's a massive opportunity here for West Australian players. It's a massive opportunity. Those that are really keen and those that are really prepared to work hard for it, I see no reason why they shouldn't push for the W League and to see all of the Eastern State players eventually moving back to the Eastern State clubs. Certainly for this year, it's not going to make a big difference, but next year or next season 23-24, that's going to be a big one to see what sort of impact that has, definitely.
Thanks very much, Neil. Just finishing up by a little bit of brochureware, I suppose, some of the stuff that came out with the statement. So there's now going to be in the 2023-2024 season, 1,980 regular season minutes, which puts it in line with global benchmarks set by England's Women's Super League, the NWSL, and France's Division 1 Feminine. So it really does showcase the, in terms of the quantity of minutes, it is in that ballpark. The quality will develop over time, I think it's not just magic. It needs a lot of thinking and strategy around it, but it's the best thing that we've seen in a long while. Speaking of best things, Steffen, I want to give you your moment in the spotlight as well, particularly given that Canberra United continue to sign more players. Give it a go.
Just the one this week, Cheryl. Sasha Grove, who's going to be in the third season with Canberra United, signed a 2-year deal. So all the players so far, there hasn't been that many, have signed 2-year deals. They're all recognised as locals, but it's a really great investment in our future. She's very versatile, as she's showing with her defensive work at the moment with the Spirit, known as an attacking midfielder here locally. But really great to see. And the other thing that's happened at the club that was announced this morning is the addition of 2 more mentors, major figures from the past, Grace Gill and Caitlin Munoz, coming in to help out Ash Sykes and Nicole Begg with getting the right culture and, being there as sounding boards, I guess, for the squad and helping the coaching staff. So, it's looking pretty exciting, I've got to say.
That's amazing. Like, if I was a player in Canberra United, and certainly if I was a younger player, having that kind of caliber of mentor around the club would, just really showcase how important it is, but really give them the opportunity to ask any questions and get the support that they need as well. So go Canberra.
Being spotted, wouldn't it?
Dale, you look very pensive. So I wonder whether or not you want to take us through the next part of it, which is the Festival of Women's Football in July. Have we got some games for everyone to watch around the world?
Well, we always love festivals and we love women's football. So this is a very good little niche for us to find ourselves in. There's a whole heap of women's football, international women's football coming up in the next month. Starts off with the Women's African Cup of Nations, which kicked off on the 2nd. My understanding is that's actually available to watch, I think, on beIN Sports. So if you have that in your satellite TV package or whatever you get now, that's available. Women's African Cup of Nations directly qualifies these teams to the Women's World Cup, so that should be great to watch. I think five teams go through, and then a bunch of other teams go through to the playoff. I'm not 100% across that just yet, but it's African qualifications is a little bit strange in the past, but I'm not 100% sure on this one. 4th of July is the start of the CONCACAF Women's Championship, which is being held by or hosted by Mexico this year. Keep an eye out for that one. Always good fun. Not as many teams as the African Cup of Nations, but still good fun. Women's Euro being held in England obviously starts on the 6th. That goes through until the 31st of this month. Copa America is the 8th. That involves all 10 teams that make up the South American Federation. And then the Women's OFC Nations Cup, where you can see non-countries such as New Caledonia and Tahiti going to get in a lot of trouble from that. For that,
I love a non-country playing in FIFA.
But we love a non-country team in world football. And the team that wins that tournament will be the Oceanian entrant into the repechage playoffs for the Women's World Cup. So that should be a lot of fun.
Sounds good. Lots of football. Like we said, AFF Women's Championship starts tonight. The Euros start Thursday night, our time. Get your Optus subscription happening if you don't already have it, because I think, is that the only way in Australia to legally watch it? So
legally was the key word. I'm glad
legally's doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
Yes.
It's all about being legal.
Yes.
Just on the Euros. I know that we don't cross-pollinate podcasts, but keep an eye out on the Far Post socials. Yes. Anna and Angela are in England. The place of both of their births. I think. No, did I make that up? To see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
we're
that
looking
was the
forward
other
to coverage of Lee Sports Village.
Cool. International friendlies. If we whiz through those. Sorry, Neil.
Yeah, I was just going to say with the Euros, I'm going to give a shout out now. Obviously, I should be following England, but I don't anymore. Northern Ireland for me, 2 players who played in the WA state competition, Nadine Caldwell and Demi Vance. They'll be running out for Northern Ireland. An amazing achievement for such a small nation to get out there. They did have a bit of a beating against Belgium 4-1, but I know both of the girls are really, really excited about this, looking at their Instagrams and everything. So best of luck to them. They'll do incredibly well to get out of their group, but I'm going to be right behind those two.
Fair shout. We'll come back to the Euros later, but maybe I'll throw to Eric if he's happy to go through some of the international friendly results that we've seen across the last few days.
Yes. So just through the wonderful website Soccerway, just a couple of international friendlies results that caught our eye. Firstly, Wales 0, New Zealand 0. Of course, we like to at least briefly mention our friends from across the Tasman. And also that game, Ali Green's international debut. So well done to her. And so Sweden 3, Brazil 1, United States 2, Colombia 0. Oh, sorry, I should pronounce that better because I have a Spanish surname. United States 2, Colombia 0, Denmark 1, Norway 2, Switzerland 0, England 4. England backing up from that big win over the Netherlands, of course. Italy 1, Spain 1. So hard to tell with different strengths of lineups, but good result by Italy to get a draw against Spain. And Netherlands 2, Finland 0. There were also some World Cup qualifiers in this window, just mainly involving, of course, teams not going to the Euros. But firstly, Georgia 0, Republic of Ireland 9. Fair enough. Apparently, the field was terrible. One Irish media personality said there were daisies and buttercups growing on the edge of the pitch. But anyway, and Netherlands 3, Belarus 0. So Netherlands, of course, actually, I told a lie just a minute ago. Netherlands fitting in an extra World Cup qualifier before the Euro start.
Thank you. Madge, how about your thoughts on the Euros then, given that, I mean, this is the biggest tournament to my mind outside the World Cup and outside the Olympics. To me, it's going to showcase the most competitive nations out there, Euros Confederation being super strong. So your thoughts, a player to watch or a prediction of who you think might be in the top 4 or who might win it?
Yeah, I mean, I think as we get each of these major tournaments, one after the other, as time goes on and women's football keeps getting a higher profile internationally, I think the world's just getting more familiar with the best players in the world. We've been able to get more visibility of emerging leagues and the major leagues around the world putting more and more investment into like the WSL, the NWSL been doing it for ages. So I think there's just, what's so exciting is that there's so many stars across all of these teams that we're going to be able to see at the Euros, this tournament, that we are familiar with. They're not just vague names that we've heard on the internet. If you follow women's football, you're excited to watch the quality of play that's going to happen at this tournament. For me, I think I'm really interested to see how Norway goes, and I think Caroline Graham-Hansen. I'd love to see her have a breakout tournament, especially. Is that
your way of saying they'll be top 4?
Oh, I think they're a good shout. So absolutely, I think that I haven't done a deep dive at the draw, so I'm not sure what their path looks like, but they've just got such quality in their team, and real game changers in Graham-Hansen and Hegerberg as well. But I'd really like to see Caroline Graham-Hansen maybe step out of the shadow of an Ada Hegerberg. There's been so much publicity around her return from her ACL, returning to playing international football for Norway. It'd be kind of nice just to see Caroline just say, no, but I'm the main event here. I think that'd be great.
I still hold a smidge of a grudge against Norway, I have to tell you, because of the 2019 World Cup. But Steffen, your thoughts? I mean, you're pretty close to some of these areas, given the Nordic football wraps that you do, and I doubt that there are many people with the familiarity you would have with some of the players. A top player or two from you, and maybe a top 4 or a prediction around who could win it?
Yeah, my prediction is Sweden, I think. I also haven't done a deep dive on the draw, but in sticking with my Nordic knowledge, they were so strong in their last major tournament, and they're really good across all 3 lines. They have tremendous strength and depth across all 3 lines, whereas Norway do, as Major said, have amazing talent in the team, but I think they're possibly better on the attack than on the defensive side. But the 2 players that I'm excited to see link up together in particular are the 2 that Madge mentioned. They're the ones I'm really keen to watch. But I think I'm going to go for Sweden in this one.
Not a bad shout for Sweden. Their 5th appearance in the Euros, I think, and have not won. For Caroline Seeger, I think. Oh, sorry, maybe they've appeared more than 5 times, but I think
this is
Caroline
their 11th
Seeger,
appearance.
Sorry, thank you. It's Caroline Seeger who has had 5 appearances, or 5 separate Euro appearances. And wouldn't it be nice for her to wrap up a bit of a win? Throw it around the rest of the room. Dale, I'm sure you're pretty interested in this one as well, and you're setting your clock accordingly, just changing to some British Standard Time.
If there's one thing I love, it's being awake in the middle of the night. It's also nice because it's during the middle of the Tour de France, so I can kill 2 birds with one stone. Just don't like to sleep. Team I'm really interested to watch, obviously. I think Northern Ireland's going to be fascinating. Group D for me is going to be probably the group for mine to watch. France, Italy, Belgium, and Iceland. Not necessarily because they're the best teams, but I think they're the most evenly matched. I think if I'm going to pick a winner, I know that the Netherlands got tonked by England a couple of weeks ago, but I would be very surprised if they don't make the final. But I'm going to tip Spain to win this tournament.
Just wondering how long that would take for someone to give it up.
Yeah, I think if you look at their path, I think that they top their group. Germany, Denmark, Spain, and Finland. I think they top their group. Then Group B, they go through. They play the winner of Group D in the semi-final potentially, which I would assume would probably be France. France not very good at knockout games. Therefore, it'll probably be Spain and maybe the Netherlands in the final, which for me, as a colourblind person, please put on an away kit. That will make my life a lot better. Player that I'm looking forward to seeing, Caroline Alea Vilhjálmsdóttir from Iceland. 20 years old, already has 20 caps, and she's playing relatively regularly for Bayern Munich. She's an Icelandic midfielder. And just a shout out to their kit staff for fitting all those letters on those jerseys. I think that could be the hero of the tournament, the Icelandic kit staff.
Ooh, I mean, that's always a good choice.
Yeah,
Who else?
only one
Who else
player
do
in
we
the
got?
Icelandic team without Dotter in their surname, so she should be left on the bus.
All right. Any final thoughts as well, Eric or Neil?
I'll leave
I
it to
hope
Eric.
Alessia Russo gets a lot of game time. That's all I've got.
I'm trying to pick a favorite. Oh, sorry, Neil, go.
Yeah, no, I tend to. I'm looking forward to seeing Niedermeyer. That's my Arsenal bias coming out there, but I think she's going to be a massive player in the tournament. England cannot be discounted. Home nation, home tournament. They're in red hot form at the moment as well. And yeah, as I mentioned earlier on, my team that I'll be watching with the greatest amount of interest will be Northern Ireland. But it's going to be a fantastic tournament. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah. I think I'm going to be a winner in this one just because there's so many nations in there that I love. So I've got a really good chance of someone that I love winning the tournament. So I think that's the right way to pick what's going on. I'm not usually in favor of the combustion or anything like that, but I'm interested to see what happens with France just because of things that are going on in and around there. And
I'm not
like, I'm
picking
not
one
saying
of the
that
best
for
midfielders in the world will do that to you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that because I love to see, a bit of mess around football, but I just want to see what the outcome is and can they put that all to rest and play great football at a massive tournament and see how things go. But anyway,
Will
super
this be
exciting
Corinne
times.
Diacre's Waterloo?
Good work.
I'm sorry.
And
I think it's going to be hilarious if England win this tournament because football's been coming home for about 45 years at this point.
Yeah.
And if the women win a major tournament, it's just going to be all you boys, you should have been paying attention. It's just going to be really funny.
Okay. I agree. A new podcast is coming out as well, the Guardian's Women's Football Weekly, which I think will be a fantastic podcast as well. I don't know. I only listened to the 1 minute preview, but Faye Carruthers and Susie Rack, I'm sure they'll have some amazing things to talk about and something to add into your calendar to listen to while you're on the train or driving or walking or just trying to ignore domestic duties or whatever it might be. Let's move swiftly on to the NWSL as well. A couple of games this time around. I'll shout them out. I don't know. There's probably no quicker way to do. Gotham FC had a 3-0 loss against the Chicago Red Stars with Chelsea Dorban not appearing, I think, because she's in the AFF Championship squad, which is great news. San Diego Waves, Emily Van Egmond appeared for San Diego Wave, played the whole match, 2-1 victory against Washington Spirit. And then finally, in terms of Aussie appearances, Orlando Pride. Oh, I haven't got a result in there. That was played at 10 a.m. this morning, was it not?
2-2 draw.
2-2 draw. Alex repping a pretty mean-looking face mask, although it didn't appear to be the way she wanted it to look, like a superhero mask.
Oh, yeah, but at least she was subbed on in the 65th minute.
Cool.
Also, shout out to Orlando Pride for doing something different and holding that game in the middle of one of the most famous racetracks in the world, the Daytona International Speedway. And their social media admin then took the opportunity to make as many motor racing references as possible. So,
thank you. State football now. Let's whiz through it. Give us your highlights, Steffen.
Yeah, thanks, Cheryl. Sunday games, 3 games, all very windy, so I made conditions trying for all the teams. I was at the Saturday game where it wasn't quite as windy, where top-placed Canberra Croatia visited Belconnen United and came out with a 2-1 win. Beck Keating, who's ex-Canberra United, rose up high for the first goal, and starting debutante Anna Ross scored the winner for them, which is exciting for her. And Karen Clark also doing a back post header off a corner for Belconnen United. And I expect Belconnen to sneak up into third place surely any game now. They're playing at a level. It's only just below the top 2 and are going to be pressing them, I think, towards the second end of the season, which is we're in now. We're in the second half of the season. The Sunday games, just quickly, Canberra Olympic defeated West Canberra Wanderers on the Melrose Synthetic 3-0. Goals to Nicole Jalocca, Meg Roden and Ashley Sykes. The big one was a 2-1 win by Wagga City Wanderers, who came up to Canberra to play at Hawkins Synthetic against Canberra United Academy. So that's Wagga City's first win for the year. Megan Castle, who scored one of the goals, has seen pretty much the entire squad around her change over the last couple of years. And so it's good reward for her and the coaching staff. They put in a 90-minute performance in that game. And there's some thinking to do, I think, for the academy, who are usually so strong in their own synthetic ground, but perhaps the conditions had something to do with that one. And Andrew Woodman, who used to coach Canberra Olympic, started his coaching stint with Gungahlin United this week. And they came away with a 3-1 home win against Tuggeranong United. Tuggeranong are playing well at the moment, had a good 2-2 draw last week and came out strongly in this game as well. But Woodman's faith in Piper Lockley, who was ex-Wagga City, putting her up front, scored the winning goal for them in that game. So, Woodman was very important to Canberra Olympics' current culture success. You know, they're a team that's very together and playing a terrific culture, and he's the one who got all that started. So I'm sure he'll do something similar back at Gungahlin United. And that's your wrap.
Thanks, Steffen. Eric, Dale, either one.
Yeah, so I'll do New South Wales. Firstly, just on Piper Lockley, a player that Steffen once compared to Grace Maher, which is certainly enough to get my attention. From what I've seen, she deserves the comparison. But on to New South Wales, 3 washouts, as is not surprising. The only surprising thing is it was only 3 washouts given the weather in Sydney. So Apia versus Northern Tigers, Illawarra Stingrays versus Bankstown City, and Sydney Olympic versus Manly United to be played at a later date. But I was at Valentine Sports Park, Football New South Wales headquarters, to watch Football New South Wales Institute defeat Blacktown Spartans 3-1. It was one for those who love long-range bangers. So 2 goals from outside the box by Mary Stanich Floody, who was one of the little ones from the young ones from Sydney FC, scored last A-League women's season. I believe she was born in 2006, which makes me feel incredibly old. The other goal from highly rated junior Matilda, Sienna Silvesca, so she scored the other goal for Institute. And the one Spartans goal coming from Ashley Crofts, who put a ball right into the top corner from about 25 yards out. Other game, Sydney University defeated Emerging Jets by 4-1. Hat-trick from their American import roller, Bardawia. Another goal from Steffen will like this, former Canberra player Stara Morgan, and the Emerging Jets goal coming from Brinley Gentle. And then the Sunday night game played in absolutely horrendous conditions up at a ground commonly known as the Arctic Circle, aka Christie Park. And the scoreline wasn't much better, 0-0 between Northwest Sydney Spirit and Macarthur Rams. There was commentary, but thankfully he was doing it remotely, so he didn't get soaked.
Thank you, Eric. And shout out to our diversity as well. We've got some gender diversity going on, but our age diversity, when Eric says he feels old, given that there's a player who was born in 2006, Eric, you may feel old. I might feel a little bit older than that as well. So, yes. And we may have 1 or 2 other people on the podcast and, you know, all of our diverse listeners as well. So it's great to have representation. Match.
Also, I just want to point out, I am a lot older than I look, by the way, but that's another story.
Good genes.
Yes.
Yeah. In Queensland, we had the second half of the Super Cup quarterfinals. Lions FC, too strong for Brisbane Olympic, winning 4-0. So 2 goals to Tegan Riding there, Madison Teagle and Scarlett Primel grabbing the goals there for Lions FC. And then in maybe an upset, although I'm rapidly not thinking so, because Sunshine Coast Wanderers in NPL have gotten themselves up into the top 4, but they took out the Battle of the Beach, beating Gold Coast United 2-1. Goals to Jessica Robinson and Chanel Harris. Jessie Rashout did get a headed goal for Gold Coast United in that game. But that takes us to the semi-finals, where we'll see they're both going to be held on the 16th of July. Sunshine Coast Wanderers will be taking on Lions, so that will be a tough test for them. And Edge Hill, with, of course, the 2 Mary Fowler sisters playing for them, taking on Souths United. And that is actually going to be up in Cairns at Tiger Park. So something to look forward to. going into the semi-finals there. Only one NPLW game this round. I think most of the others were washed out again with rain and fields not able to recover after all the rain that we've had. But South United won that game against Eastern Suburbs 2-1 with goals to Paloma Gonsalves, Oliveira and Bella Habuda. And Eastern Suburbs, we don't have a goal scorer, but I'm fairly sure it was an own goal with a bit of a messy corner going off the defence into the goal there.
Thanks so much, Madge. I have to put this on notice. I will not take any commentary about Melbourne's weather, given all the matches which have been postponed across Queensland and New South Wales. But speaking of good weather, let's go to
the weather, it was
Western
the people
Australia.
that are annoying.
All Queensland fields are on dumps and floodplains. So,
oh yes, that sounds familiar to us in Sydney.
So is most of Queensland, in fairness. So.
Let's go to Western Australia and be kind to each other. You've got some big news over there, as much as you might not necessarily say that the matches were too busy. I think there's some caps or some big numbers of appearances.
Yeah. So we had a full fixture list again. And I say again, it's becoming more frequent, but it's been pretty stop-starty. There's been a lot of catch-up games from the early part of the season, but full fixture list this weekend. Unfortunately, Curtin University sitting at the bottom of the table without a win. That continues. They lost 2-1 on Friday night against FootballACT, the team above them in the table. And then on Saturday, Perth Red Star, who are absolutely smashing it at the moment, they beat fourth place Balcatta Etna 4-0. Hat-trick from Sarah Carroll from Perth Glory in that game. And then on Sunday, 2 games where second place Fremantle played against the NTC, a 1-1 draw there. So they dropping points when Red Star are winning. And then similarly, Perth, who are in third place, also dropped points. They lost 1-0 at home to Mum FC in a quite extraordinary game, really, where the Mum FC defence literally parked the bus. They scored in the 8th minute with an own goal, and that was it. I don't think they got beyond halfway line after that. But the big news for the weekend, and indeed through the week, at Red Star, which used to be Northern Redbacks, there's been a long history now of recording game appearances, and on Wednesday night at the State League quarter-final game, Emily Dunn received a special plaque for her 250th game for the club, presented by another member of the 250 game club. There's 2 of them now, both playing first team football. And then on Saturday, the club captain, Sean Billam, she received her 200 game club plaque. And she now becomes the 5th playing member of that group. The 6th member of that group is Nicola Williams, who stopped playing in 2017 with us. But we scratching our heads here in the West to think of another club where there are 5 players in the first team with 200 plus first team appearances. And also during the week as well, Kim Carroll, we didn't make a special mention of this because there's so many of them, but she played her 100th game for the club, and she joined Sarah Carroll, who also played her 100th game for the club earlier in the season. So there are centurions, double centurions, and now I don't know what the word is for 250th, but there's 250 players in there as well. And it's amazing to think that we've got players who've given a service to that club for 10 seasons or more now, because that's basically where 200 games comes from. That's why they get the award. That's basically 10 seasons worth of appearances. And you throw into the mix many of those players have also played for Perth Glory. Sean's played over 60 games for Perth Glory. Him, over 54 games for the Matildas, I think, and then 100 plus W League games as well. So her career stats are well over 300 now for first team appearances at senior level. It's quite remarkable.
I've got homework for Neil then. I think we should try and get one of those representative players to come on the podcast and give us some chat about how, sticking it out and playing and the group around them as well. Alrighty, I'll give a quick rundown on Victorian football as well. So Calder United had a 1-0 victory over Alamein. Heidelberg United with a 2-0 victory over Bulleen Lions. South Melbourne went down 2-4 against Box Hill United. And then the final match of the round was FV Emerging went down 2-0 against Bayside United, which must be Bayside United's first win, I think. Just coming up matches as well this week. So one match tomorrow and one match the following week in the Nike FC Cup or Nike FC Cup. Heidelberg United are going to take on South Melbourne, and then the following Tuesday. Sorry. And then the following Tuesday, Bulleen Lions will take on Calder United, who is the ex-club that Mark Torcaso, the Western United head coach, has come from as well. It's interesting to me, these cups that, we get to the semi-finals and you just see your NPLW teams there and what purpose do they serve. But ideally, let's get to the point where we have an Australia Cup. Thank you very much. I'd love to see that. All right. Queens of the Week. I got through that as quickly as I could, but I'll throw in my Queen of the Week first and then we'll keep on going. My Queen of the Week is Vera Pauw. She displayed tremendous courage this week she's the Republic of Ireland head coach, but she's documented her challenges from approximately 35 years ago when at the hands of some Dutch I'm trying to be careful of what I say because I don't want to put myself into any legally difficult position, but she was indecently assaulted and raped at the hands of some people within the Dutch football administration. So, to put that out there and to have people read it and understand her position and her life must be incredibly hard. But I also acknowledge that she's probably done it for some greater good as well, to make it a safer place for other players in and around women's football in the Dutch Federation.
The Northern Ireland women's team, they're going to be my Queens of the Week, no matter what their tournament outcome for this one. My opinions of Northern Ireland aside, it's fantastic to see Northern Ireland at a tournament. It's been well before my lifetime that they last played at a major tournament. So good on them. And also good to see they traditionally wear their club, national logo on the middle of their jersey, and they have in the past. Become very much in vogue this season, so it's good to see that kind of tradition for Northern Irish teams is really is going to be there for the women's team, which I think is important.
Steffen.
Yeah, my queen is new Canberra United signing Sasha Grove, but also the Wagga City Wanderers, who are possibly still celebrating their amazing first win from the weekend, and may there be many more.
Cool. I'm going to put Eric on the spotlight now because Eric has probably picked Steffen's for him. Maybe Steffen should pick Eric's.
Has he read the pod notes? Because he could just read the pod notes.
Go for it, Eric.
Okay, so it's good to see so many people choosing people from the Emerald Isle. I'll do so as well. So my Queen of the Week is Republic of Ireland captain Katie McCabe. She scored a hat-trick in their 9-0 World Cup qualifying win over Georgia. So, of course, international hat-tricks, they are always worthy of a shout-out.
Thank you. How about you, Neil? I feel like you've given us quite a few Queens, Kings, non-binary people of the week already, but is there anyone else to call out?
I think I've done a lot, haven't I? Really? I'll stick and follow on with Dale. I'll stick with the two Northern Ireland girls, Demi and Nadine. I don't know them very well because it's been a long time since we spoke, but. They were amazing people. We could not understand a single word they said in the 2 years they were with us. We have asked them if they would send us a video message, but we did say to them, you need to put subtitles on it because the accent is so broad. But best of luck to both of them. I think it's amazing that players that have graced the WA field are now going to be running around at Wembley. It's absolutely brilliant.
Thank you so much, Neil. And I've saved the best to last. Match. Your Queen, King, non-binary person of the week.
Well, I'm going to jump across the Atlantic and give a shout out to Carson Pickett, so former Raw player who got her first cap for the US women's national team, being playing against in the game against Colombia, the first ever player with a limb difference to play for the US. So I think that's a fantastic news. And then another quick shout out just to Alex Chidiac for being endlessly hilarious. At training, wearing a "Please Don't Hit Me in the Face" sign on her training kit.
Terrific.
Keep us laughing, kids.
Hopefully that means Chids is having fun there as well. And if we know anything about football, we know that when footballers are having fun, they play some of their best football. So yeah, keep it going. Well, thank you all of you as well. Hopefully you've had fun. It's been a great podcast talking about football, and we probably all want to sign off pretty quickly, go have some dinner, and then get ready for AFF and start having naps during the day when we can, so we can start preparing for the Euros as well. So get into it. Thank you, everyone. We'll talk to you again next time.